listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in. I'm Grace Ovba, your host for Rising Above Shadows of Abuse. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Reverend Deb Hansen. How do the limits of language shape our experience of the world? I think you've actually answered that. Or if you want to elaborate more, that's okay.
I think it's good.
Okay. So, what does it mean to truly know something from inside versus outside the culture?
So beautiful. It's a dilemma for me, at least right now. I have been so blessed by travel, sometimes as a tourist, but the most meaningful experiences have been not as a tourist consuming, but as a pilgrim, open to learn and to grow, to face the unknown. By all means, have an experience, but offer something where you travel. In return, travel can also be an inner journey that includes study and reading, reflecting. The inner journey is very, very rich. There is a little cartoon of Buddhist wisdom, a little sheet of paper on a shop window that says, inquire within, which is a real, I can go into the shop and inquire, or I can look inside and inquire there as well. I like that one. Relationships, I probably sound like a broken record now, for me are everything. I was an unlikely candidate given my upbringing for the breadth of experiences and relationships that I enjoy now. I feel that reclaiming indigenous wisdom in a healthy culture is essential. And no matter how far back, we all come from indigenous peoples. And I inherited almost nothing of a culture from the ancestral lands of my people. Resma Menakem, author of My Grandmother's Hands, says that a healthy culture is more than the aesthetics of art and architecture, dress, custom. It is what grounds us to the land, and it teaches harmony and our duty to live in balance with one another, and not just the human family, with our greater than human kin as well. We have responsibilities to one another and to life. And one of my native friends, who I look to as an elder, one of the things she said that impacted me greatly is that your culture talks a lot about rights. In my culture, we have no rights at all. We only have responsibilities, are relational, and we can claim all the rights we want, but if no one feels responsible to uphold the rights of all, there are no rights. So I found that very, very wise and something that I've reflected on over time. Rights versus responsibilities.
And if there are no responsibilities, there'll be chaos. And that leads to lawlessness.
And the violence, yes, as well, that we're seeing in the world right now. We are seeing that these institutions, these global institutions that we thought had integrity and that we could respect, are acting with bias. That at least in my country, and I know in some countries in Europe, we are doing things that break treaties, that break agreements, where we're not living in integrity. We're not keeping our word. And without integrity, that's nothing. And the invitation, I think the gift of these challenging times that we're living through right now is that each of us gets to wrestle with what our integrity requires of us. There are no easy answers, and there are risks and consequences.
Definitely risks and consequences. And that's why we're having violence all over the whole place. Trauma, displacement, you name it, lawlessness.
And at the same time, Grace, what I have learned is that a period of chaos is natural and even necessary to navigate a transition. Because if we're going to allow the old to fall away and to not know exactly what the new will look like, we might have some inklings, some glimpses, but this is a normal phase, even though it kicks up a lot of anxiety and discomfort. And this is where the gift of community can help hold us through these times.
And I also feel if it's not handled properly, it might lead to a revolution, or it might lead to several revolutions.
Yes, it's unpredictable. And I guess then the question I ask is, who's in control? To what extent can I trust life? Call it, call it God, many names. But that is, I have a responsibility to do my part. But my native friends say the human family, we're the newcomers. And we have so much to learn by going in the forest and observing the wisdom of other creatures, other nations, the tree nation, the fish nation, and what they have to teach us. And that again requires some humility on our part, rather than thinking we're in charge, we're in the center of the circle, we have the answers. But again, it's like, then how do we reorient during a time of disorientation? What I know to do is what brings me alive. Where is life? Where is aliveness? And I'll be led and I'll be taught if I surrender to forces that are more powerful.
And the forces could be the government.
I think there are spiritual forces.
Yes, I do believe that.
Yeah, spiritual forces. And the structures right now, a lot of them they're not nurturing life. They are preying on life. They are systems of domination and control. And so that's where my spirituality is a resource, a source for me, where so many institutions are failing us right now. If people feel called to invest in them, I respect that call. But I think we're living in times of emergence. Here where I live, it's been really dry here. We haven't had rain for a while, and it just looked like early spring, that full spring was never going to come. We had a pretty nice soaking rain last night, and in one day, the land is green. The leaves are coming out on the trees. My strawberry plants are in blossom, and that happened overnight with a rain. These are the forces in Mother Earth of spring ripping through the land and bringing her back to life, warmed by the sun. It's a miracle. And I think that's my intention, is to learn to flow more confidently with these larger seasons and cycles of life, to be closer to the land, to notice what's in bloom on the land that tells me when it's okay to plant my tomatoes, when to harvest them. There is so much ancient wisdom that is there for us to reclaim. And I trust will bring us back to some health. Just requires vulnerability.
Thank you. Yes, we have to be vulnerable to Mother Earth and treat it with kindness, because that's where things spring from. Food, lots of things spring from the Mother Earth.
We depend on her every day. And I see so many parallels, Grace, between the abuse of women and the abuse of the water and the land, because the earth has traditionally, by all cultures I'm aware of, been viewed as the sacred feminine.
That's quite punchy when you alluded the abuse of the earth to abuse of women, because you see the earth as feminine. And I know the Bible, God said, be fruitful and multiply upon the earth.
Respect life, care for life, nurture life.
Wow.
Pass it along. Respect the ancestors. I was not raised in a culture that taught me about how important the respect for the ancestors. And so this is something that in my own life, I am starting to reclaim. And boy, the African traditions are such good teachers for this. And it's still something that I have to be mindful of and work on. That at the times when I have felt isolated and alone in the world, even the idea that I could call on my ancestors for guidance and support was something, it's just new for me still. That idea of a lineage, a tradition that has withstood the test of time. And it's not about rigidity. Traditions grow and shift and evolve, but it's like standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. We survived. We're here because we survived, and it's all thanks to our people.
Thank you.